Welcome to the NJ Criminal Podcast and Part 5 in this series.
For instance, picking out Iowa, only 4% of the population is black, but 25% of the prison population is black. It's still a pretty big disparity.
Right. Why was this topic important to you? Why is this topic important to you?
I guess living in prison and seeing it every day, it was just such a huge injustice. And it wasn't, and again, the joke is, everyone in prison's innocent. Nobody's guilty, but they are sometimes. But they still, sometimes they're not. And I came across so many people. One of the things I did in prison was I worked as a paralegal and helped people with their cases. I had access to a computer so I could type up paperwork and submit it to the courts. And I help people get out. And, I help people with their cases, but it's overwhelming. And some of the cases I saw in prison were just so ridiculous. The one guy was on probation and had a suspended sentence of 20 years. And while he was on probation, he got stopped by the police. They found minuscule amounts of marijuana on him, and again, I saw the transcript. The judge was like, this isn't even enough, to make a joint if you wanted to smoke it. And they basically said, just plead guilty and we'll figure it out on the other end. But when he got in front of the judge of his original sentence that had been suspended, she gave him all 20 years for that probation violation. And so, what purpose does that serve? And how is it beneficial to anyone? The community, the state, the person being incarcerated, his family. Across the board, it was just injustice. It's the only way to label it. So again, was it because he was black? I don't know, but he was black. And so, it mattered to him, and I saw it in my face. And so, why does this keep happening? Why do certain people get longer sentences than other people? And it's just something you can't account for.
What can be done, in your opinion, to reduce this type of racial disparity? I can just say, New Jersey has recently, obviously, legalized marijuana, eliminated mandatory sentences for certain drug offenses. Do you agree with those types of programs? Do you think that they work in reducing this type of racial disparity that you have described?
It doesn't, because again, like we said before, it starts with the police. And so you can make all the laws that you want, but if the police are still pulling over, black males at 10 times the rate of everyone else, it's not going to change anything. And so you have to start with the police somehow. And there's no program that does it. And the only thing I've seen that kind of hints at what could be possible is I read an article that was talking about after the NYPD had an incident with a civilian death. And I can't even remember the name. There's been so many. But after that incident, I think it was Eric Gardner, that incident. And the police basically did a stand down and they stopped policing, so to speak. And that was also one of the biggest drops in police complaints in the history of the city. And so I think there's a way to do it so that if you can get police to stop over-policing certain populations, then it all kind of cascades into a better system.
Okay, so the focus being on the front end, on policing.
Right, and again, there's different things you can do, and I'm sure there's all types of police training. Again, my specialty is not in policing, but I've read a lot of articles about it, and I've kind of seen stuff
I don't
that
think you're
one.
getting a job as a police officer anytime soon,
Yeah,
John.
and again, I almost did. I applied for a job with the New Jersey State Police, and but for my felony, they probably would have hired me as a GIS analyst.
Yeah. Well, that was recent, right? So tell me,
Right.
what do you want to do? What would be your dream job right now? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years?
Dream job would be doing analysis and writing reports with some type of policy initiative. Like the sentencing project is a perfect one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just sentencing. Sentencing's wrong, and there's so many facets of this is what's wrong with the criminal justice system. You kind of have to pick one and focus. I attended a webinar on Reentry done by some people out in Seattle, and they have some pretty good stuff going on. There's so many things to do. I just need to kind of find one and do that. And it's really, I mean, it's varied and it's hard to get into, again, so you know.
Are most of those organizations nonprofits?
They are mostly nonprofits.
Right.
And again, there's ones led by people who have been incarcerated. There's ones that are, led by people like the Brookings Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's many different paths. I just need to find my way into one of them, and do that job and be that type of analyst where I can say, look, this is all the data. If you can basically get police to stop focusing on that one neighborhood where all the crime is, so they say, the prison population will drop significantly. And again, that's a map I could eventually make. All these people came from, these 3 census blocks in this city, and that's where all the arrests come from. Stop arresting people for, minor stuff. And right now, one of the most glaring things, there's a show on HBO. We run the city, about the Baltimore City Police and kind of just the corruption that was pervasive in that department. And during a certain period, they were arresting a fifth of the city, like every couple months, and that's ridiculous. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the type of stuff that doesn't make sense. And then, they had actually had someone from the state's attorney's office sitting at the jail who would make these people who had been arrested illegally mostly sign a waiver so that they couldn't come back and sue the city, and then, dismiss the charges and let them walk out the door. And so there's just these revolving doors in certain places that are much worse than the average, criminal justice system that you see in, a small town or a medium-sized city.
Well, I predict that you will land at an organization that will be very, very fortunate to have you. With all of your background and skills and passion, really, for this topic, I think that you're a great find for an organization that is committed to improving transition of prisoners once they're released, and also, maybe even more importantly, based on our conversation, focusing on why there is such a disparity and how through different, whether it's initiatives, policing initiatives, etc., how the system can be changed in all states.
Right, and one of the things I definitely want to do is teach in criminal justice, because I definitely lent my experience to class. I think I did it in your class, not so much.
No, you did. You were great.
But other classes, when we're talking about reentry programs or things that happen in prison, I would get up and be like, that's not how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to be the guy who, corrects the teacher or whatever.
But you were.
Right. Sometimes experience kind of lends itself.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it seems like it should be. This is what it actually was.
Right. Well, I sent you an article yesterday about a law professor in D.C. who had been incarcerated and released and ended up getting his law degree and now teaches. I may reach out to him to see if he would be a guest on the show.
One of the other things, I've talked to my my former employer in the business school, and she wants to set up a webinar and basically do a reentry webinar. Have corporate people who may or may not feel comfortable hiring people with criminal backgrounds, and then have some criminal justice professors or perhaps a criminal defense attorney with prosecutor experience.
Hey, I would love that. I think I can think of someone.
and you would be the bridge. You would be like, well, this is what the law says, and this is what the criminal justice people think, and this is what the corporate people think, and why can't we all get on the same page? And,
I would love to be involved in something like that. Keep me posted on that. I think that's a great project and a very important project for sure.
Right.
Great. Well, why don't we stay in touch, and maybe we can do a follow-up after that webinar to talk some more about this topic.
Definitely.
Listen, thank you so much, Jonathan. It was great talking to you, and I, we'll get together soon.
I can't wait for part 2.
Me too. Take care.
All right, thanks. Bye.
That concludes our conversation and this series. Don't forget to subscribe and like the show on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere you listen.